Trump administration has denied Maryland Governor Wes Moore's request for FEMA aid following the historic flooding that devastated western Maryland. The flooding may have damaged more than 200 homes, roads, and elementary school, and of course critical infrastructure. Joining us now is Maryland Governor Wes Moore here on the DMV Zone. Governor, good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know that you all are appealing that FEMA denial. Many of your cohorts were up on the western part of Maryland this weekend talking to people, trying to see what to do. Those on the Republican side say this is not political. You seem to disagree.
Well, I know what I saw because we were some of the first boots on the ground there. And we saw literally children having to be rescued from their school building by the second floor by a boat, because the entire first floor was washed out. Yeah. You know, we saw that the fire department was not able to respond because essentially the fire department was washed out, the entire firehouse. And I saw the heroic work of people like, you know, their mayor Judy Hamilton, and the first responders who were working to save lives all throughout the days. And I saw the amount of damage that was done. And what we saw in the aftermath of that was that West Virginia received federal supports for storms that had similar type of impacts, and Western Maryland received nothing. Just simply a letter from the White House saying that any type of federal support was not warranted. And the state had supplied over $1 million of support. We have been there, and we just saw how the federal government has now just said that that the people of Western Maryland are being left behind. And so, yes, we are going to appeal, and we are going to stand by our people in Allegheny and Garrett County.
Are you hopeful that the appeal will bring federal funding?
I am hopeful. You know, I've had a chance to speak with members of the administration. I explained to them that I thought that the decision was not just unwise, but frankly, the decision was petty. And the decision was partisan, and the decision was punishing, because, you know, because there was not a single state that did not vote for Donald Trump that got any form of federal funding in federal disaster relief. Every state that the federal government gave any relief to were all states that voted for Donald Trump. And so I just can't help but think that this was a petty decision, that this was a partisan decision, and this was a punishing decision. And frankly, the people of Allegheny and Garrett County, which is Appalachia, but people who are very much part of Maryland, they are feeling very left behind right now, and we have to be able to address that.
Hopeful that, of course, they receive the aid that they so much deserve, to your point, as we also covered the historic flooding there. We saw you today out in Baltimore, that demolition going ahead for the Key Bridge there, it seems, as all systems go. I know you've been also talking with the feds there for aid, et cetera. Are we looking still for that 2028 completion?
Yeah, we've been working in close coordination, both with our federal partners and our federal delegation, as well as our local partners and also the private sector. And we're really encouraged, because if you see how, you know, we've been able to streamline the permitting process, streamline the regulatory process. And if you see for a project of a similar size and scope, around 2-mile bridge, that just the permitting on that could take 2 years. And now we're seeing how just after months, we're able to get it completed, that we're going to start the full reconstruction later on this year, that the initial Key Bridge, you know, took 5 years just to get permitting done. And we now, just a little over a year and a half after the devastating tragedy that we saw the Key Bridge collapse when that ship slammed into the bridge, that we're already going to start the construction process. So we're happy with the progress, but I've said that there's 3 things that we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on speed, we're going to focus on safety, and we're going to focus on being, you know, real stewards of the taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, we hope. I think a lot of people hoping that that'll be completed as projected for 2028, which of course would be the year for re-election there. And we'll talk about that in a second. But let's come closer to home here. Commanders, a big vote coming up in D.C. here before the council to see if, in fact, this goes through. You have said on record it's time to move on. Let's figure something else out for Landover. People talking about data centers, what could bring that tax revenue to the people of Prince George's County and make sure that this is not just left behind land and forgotten land. What do you say to the people of Prince George's County? What are you hoping to bring for them?
What I say to them, a better future is on its way. You know, right now we have 200 acres that are used 8 times a year for a few hours. The future is one where we can have something that brings a more live, work, play environment, something that brings real revenue to the area, and frankly, something that actually utilizes something that has been very underutilized land for a long period of time. And I've said that I believe that that becomes the future of that area, whether a football team is there or not. And so we have already begun the conversations with our local leadership, begun the conversations with our General Assembly, and begun the conversations with the ownership group of the Washington Commanders, and saying that, as you know, as I know they have their details to work out with Washington, D.C., but even as they do that, they need to know that a core priority and a core promised priority that they made was making sure that Maryland was going to have a better future.
Are data centers something that you all are looking closely at? Is that top of the list? Would that be a surprise to the people of Prince George's County if that did not come?
Well, I think people know that I'm very bullish on the future of data centers. I'm very bullish on the future of critical infrastructure. I mean, one of the first bills that I introduced as governor was actually a critical infrastructure bill, because I believe that we got to focus on what becomes a future of energy, and we have to have greater energy sources. What becomes a future of new technologies, technologies in life sciences and IT and aerospace and defense, and all of them are going to rely on data centers and information hubs to really make Maryland that centerpiece for what we need, not just for the region, but for the rest of the country. And so I'm always very interested in looking at how data centers can be a core part of Maryland's future.
All right, and we'll wait that plan for sure from the executive's office, and of course also from the people of Prince George's County. Before we go, we got to talk about 2028. I know that a lot has been talked about your political future and potentially your sights set on the White House. You have not really taken that, but you have also, we've seen some fundraising emails here down to Representative Clyburn, and potentially that could be a sense there, and I'll let you speak for yourself. But you've also talked about at the beginning of your governorship the fortunate financial position that you found Maryland, and now you seem to turn that on its head and say that this is all mirage that was brought upon your predecessor, former Governor Larry Hogan. Do you see yourself going up against Larry Hogan in 2028 as you try and walk this tight budget that you've got right now?
Well, I'm eager and ready to run against anybody who wants to try to run against me for re-election. I'm excited about re-election. I'm excited about our re-election prospects. And I know that we continue to see that the people continue to be encouraged, that despite all the headwinds that we continue to face, which include an inherited structural deficit that has been predicted since 2017, that our administration has dealt with and now turned a structural deficit into a surplus, despite the fact that we inherited an economy that was ranked 43rd in the country in unemployment, and now we are going on 16 straight months of amongst the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country. Maryland's unemployment rate right now is 3.3%, which is almost a full point lower than the national average. And despite the fact that we saw a spree of violence, where we saw the homicide rate nearly double in the state of Maryland over the 7-year period before I became the governor. Now, since I've become the governor, Maryland has had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime anywhere in the United States of America. I'm proud of the record. I'm proud and encouraged by the momentum that we're seeing in the state of Maryland, despite what we're seeing from Washington, D.C. And Maryland is showing that we really are Maryland tough. And so I'm eager for our reelection, and I'm looking forward to making my case to the people of the state of Maryland.
Governor, I think that's a positive outlook. Do you think that Wes Moore, yourself, do you think you bear any responsibility for the budget deficit?
No, because we inherited something, came on board, something that's been predicted since 2017. What I am proud about the fact is that when you look at the most recent budget, we have actually had more cuts in this budget than we've had in any budget in Maryland's budget in 16 years. That we're the first administration in over a decade that has had 3 straight years where we've actually decreased the size of the general fund. So actually decreasing the size of state government, despite then turning out better results of what state government is producing. So I think the thing, so the, what we,
those are starting to sound like Republican talking points.
Well, I think showing what efficient government looks like, that we're actually shrinking the size of government every single year and turning out better results. I'm a person, listen, my background is I'm not a politician. I don't come from a political background. I come from a background of business, and I come from a background of the military. I know balance sheets, and I know that you've got to run government efficiently and effectively. You have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and I think that's exactly what we've done, turning a deficit into a surplus while also giving the middle class a tax cut, decreasing the size of the state government every single year, and having last year the largest cuts in Maryland state budget in 16 years. This is what good governance looks like. And that's why I'm really proud that that's been a hallmark of what our administration is producing.
Governor, we're going to leave it at that. It's always great talking to you, and thank you for coming on the DMV Zone, taking our questions. And I hope that in 2028 we will see you again, and we'll be having a larger conversation on all things wide-ranging here in Maryland.
Well, I'm not running, but I am running for re-election, so I'll see you next year.
We'll see you then for 2026. Thank you, Governor.